Welcome and thank you for being here. This is your time to slow down, to release the weight of the day. Make yourself comfortable. Settle into bed. Rest your head on your pillow. And if you can, lower the lights until the room feels calm and quiet. Before we begin, I'd love to ask you a small favor. When you have a moment, please write in the comments where in the world you're listening from and what time it is for you. I'm always so curious to see how far these videos can reach, and it makes me feel connected to each of you. If this video helps you rest, please remember to like and subscribe. It's a small gesture, but it truly helps the video find others who might also need comfort and sleep tonight. My wish is simple, that you won't make it to the end, because your body will relax, your mind will soften, and sleep will gently take over long before we finish. And if you ever have ideas for future topics, please let me know in the comments. I want this channel to be a place built for you. So, take a deep breath, let it out slowly, and let's begin together. You dream again tonight, Belle. It begins as all your dreams do, without a beginning, without a reason. One moment you are drifting, and the next, you are standing in a vast and endless dark. There is no sky, no earth, only a silken shadow stretching endlessly in every direction. You try to look for the stars, for the moon, for something familiar, but there is only stillness, heavy and breathless. And then it appears. A single beam of pale golden light falls from above, impossibly narrow, like a crack in the heavens. It touches the ground somewhere far ahead of you, and there, bathed in its glow, stands a rose. At first, you think it's an illusion, a fragile bloom conjured by your longing for beauty, even in sleep. But no, this one is real. You can see the soft curve of each petal, edges tinged in crimson so deep, it almost bleeds into black. The stem rises straight and elegant, its thorns gleaming faintly like drops of glass. The flower seems suspended in the air, too perfect, too delicate to belong to such darkness. It glows, gently at first, then brighter, until the surrounding shadows retreat, as if bowing to its presence. You take a breath, slow and trembling. The air here is cold, yet the sight of that rose warms something deep in your chest. You feel it, calling to you, not with words, but with something older, more primal, like the pull of a song you've heard once in childhood and forgot, yet your heart remembers every note. You step forward. The first step echoes faintly, as though the ground beneath you is made of glass. Another step, and the light grows warmer. Another, and your name seems to whisper from nowhere. Belle. It's faint, so faint you could almost think it's your own mind speaking. But then it comes again, clearer this time, a voice not quite human, not quite divine. Belle. You draw nearer. The rose tilts toward you ever so slightly, its petals trembling. And as you reach out your hand, the air thickens around you. The warmth fades. The light dims. You hesitate, and yet you cannot stop. The rose is too beautiful, too sorrowful, as though it carries inside it the ache of 1,000 years. You must touch it. You must. You extend your hand, fingertips trembling in the air just above the bloom. And then, a sound, a low guttural growl, deep enough to make the ground vibrate beneath your bare feet. You freeze. The rose flickers in its light, shadows twisting and lengthening around it like black ribbons. The growl deepens, closer now, moving through the darkness behind you. You turn, but there is nothing but the dark that seems to pulse, to breathe. You call out, softly at first, then louder. Who's there? No answer, only silence. So you turn back to the rose, desperate for its light, for something to make sense again. But the light now feels wrong. Too bright, too cold. You notice it trembling, as though the rose itself is afraid. You take one more step forward, and then it happens. A hand, large, furred, with claws sharp enough to catch the light, bursts from the darkness and seizes your wrist. It's not the grip of a man. It's too powerful, too desperate. The claws dig into your skin, not enough to wound, but enough to paralyze you with terror. You can't move, can't scream, though you try. The darkness ripples and splits around the arm, revealing the faint outline of something vast. Shoulders hunched, horns glinting, eyes like embers behind a shroud. You try to pull away, but the hand only tightens, dragging you closer. The rose's light flickers wildly now, struggling against the encroaching dark. Don't. You whisper, but your voice barely forms. The creature's breath grazes your ear, warm and damp, carrying a scent like burnt wood and old perfume. It speaks, though not in words you understand. It's a growl and a plea all at once, like sorrow turned into sound. Your heart hammers in your chest. You twist your wrist, your feet sliding against the unseen floor, but it's useless. The claws pull again, harder this time, and for one heartbeat, the light of the rose flares, bright enough to reveal a glimpse of his face. It's monstrous. And yet, beneath the shadows and scars, you think you see something almost human. You gasp. The rose shatters like glass. Light bursts everywhere. Too bright, too searing. You scream as the claws slip away, and you fall backward into darkness again. The sound of your heartbeat fills the void. One thud, then another, and another, until at last you open your eyes. You're in your bed. Your breath comes fast and shallow. Curls of hair stuck to your damp forehead. Moonlight spills through your small window, painting the floorboards silver. The familiar walls of your little room come into focus. The faded blue curtains, the shelf stacked with worn books, the embroidery hoop by the chair. It's all here. It's all real. You sit up, pressing a hand to your chest, trying to steady the rhythm of your heart. For a long moment, you just listen to the wind outside, to the faint creak of the old house, to the quiet, just a dream. That's what you tell yourself. But in the stillness of the room, your eyes drift toward the window, to the garden beyond, silvered with frost. And there, for a fleeting instant, you could swear you see it. A single red rose glowing faintly in the moonlight. And when you blink, it's gone. The morning arrives softly, like a blessing. Golden sunlight slips through your window, warm and honeyed, chasing away the last shadows that clung to your room. It touches your cheek first, a tender warmth that stirs you from sleep. The dream is already fading, dissolving like mist, leaving behind only the faintest echo of a rose, a whisper, a pulse. But even that fades beneath the glow of morning. The world is gentle again. A breeze stirs the lace curtains, carrying with it the scent of fresh bread and damp earth. Somewhere down the lane, a rooster crows, its cry broken and cheerful. The sound of footsteps drifts from the cobblestone street outside, neighbors calling to one another, the clatter of wooden cartwheels, a dog barking once before deciding the morning is too beautiful for such effort. You stretch, slow and lazy, beneath your linen sheets, and the light glances off your face, golden and alive. The nightmare feels distant now, like a story someone else might have told you. You breathe in the quiet of your little room, your sanctuary of simple things and small comforts. Books. They're everywhere. Stacked by your bedside table, piled neatly by the window, tucked under the chair you read in at night. The spines are worn, corners softened by use. You run your fingers across them as you rise, smiling faintly. The stories are old friends, kings and dragons, lovers and curses, adventures that never grow dusty in your mind. You dress quickly, humming under your breath, an old village song about the turning of the seasons. The air outside your window hums too, alive with the sounds of morning. Then the bells begin to ring. The small church in the square chimes the hour, and with it comes a chorus of other sounds. The splash of water from the fountain, the calls of merchants setting up their stalls, laughter spilling like sunlight between the houses. You tie your hair back with a ribbon and take your basket, stepping out into the warmth. The village welcomes you as it always does, bright, familiar, full of life. The roofs are kissed with dew. Smoke curls from chimneys, weaving soft ribbons into the clear blue sky. The streets are narrow, winding between houses with painted shutters and flower boxes spilling with blooms. Children run barefoot down the lanes, their laughter bright against the clatter of the day's beginning. You wave to the baker as you pass his open window. He grins, white flour dusting his hair like early snow, and he lifts a loaf still warm from the oven. "Good morning, Belle," he calls. You smile, shy but warm. "Good morning, monsieur." The smell of freshly baked bread follows you down the street. Yeast and butter, golden crust, and sweet promise. It mingles with the crisp scent of apples from the greengrocer's cart, the hint of lavender from a nearby garden, the faint tang of the blacksmith's forge as he hammers away, sparks dancing like fireflies. You walk slowly, taking it all in, the way you always do, as though the world were a story you might forget if you didn't stop to read each line. The villagers bustle around you, wrapped up in their routines, their errands, their cheerful chatter. You hear snippets of gossip. Who's to marry? Whose cow has gone missing again? Whose roof leaked in last night's rain? They smile at you kindly, though a few shake their heads with a knowing sigh. There goes that bookish girl, they murmur, though not unkindly. The one who walks with her head in the clouds. You've heard it all before, and you don't mind. You pause at the fountain in the square, watching the sunlight shimmer across the water's surface. Children toss pebbles into it, making ripples dance and overlap like laughter on glass. You find yourself smiling. For a moment, you dip your fingers into the cool water, clear, alive, singing faintly in the sunlight. It feels real, solid, comforting. It's hard to imagine darkness in a world so golden. A soft wind passes through the square, carrying the scent of wildflowers and warm hay. The sound of a lute drifts faintly from somewhere. Perhaps the old musician who sits near the tavern steps, plucking the same melody he's played for decades. The tune is wistful, but gentle, like the morning itself. You stop at the bookseller's stall. The man there smiles when he sees you. Back again, are we, Belle? He says, amused. You shrug playfully, your eyes scanning the familiar shelves. You can never read the same story twice, you reply. It changes every time. He laughs. You and your ideas. Here then, a new one. Just came in. He hands you a thin volume bound in blue cloth. You trace the embossed letters with your fingertips. The title shimmers faintly in the light. Something about faraway lands, about oceans and castles and curses. It sounds like something you dream about. You pay with a few coins, tucking the book carefully into your basket. The day drifts on. You walk the outskirts of the village now, where the houses give way to meadows, where the road curves toward the hills. The fields shimmer with gold and green, dotted with daisies and clover. The air smells of grass and sunshine, of baking bread carried on the breeze. You pause there, looking back at the village. It's small, smaller than the world you imagine in your books, but it's yours. The rooftops gleam in the sun, the clock tower shadow long and steady. From here, you can hear faint laughter, the creak of a wagon wheel, the faraway toll of the bell. It's peaceful. It's beautiful. And yet, something in you stirs. Because even as you stand there, bathed in sunlight, a whisper rises unbidden in your heart. The same feeling that always comes. That restless pull toward the unknown. Toward something more. Something beyond the hills. You take a slow breath. The wind stirs your hair, lifting it gently around your face. You tell yourself that this life is enough. The books, the mornings, the kindness of the baker, the beauty of the hills. And yet, somewhere deep inside, the story isn't finished yet. There's something waiting for you, just beyond the world, Something vast and wild and strange. You can almost feel its breath against your skin. But for now, the sun is warm, the air sweet, the village alive. And you smile, because this morning belongs to peace, to light, to everything simple and safe. You turn back toward home, the dream long forgotten. Or so you tell yourself. The journey begins quietly. You set out from the village, just as the sun begins its slow descent, your cloak gathered around your shoulders, and your father's old horse plodding gently along the path. The air is cooler now, touched with the faint scent of rain that has not yet fallen. The chatter of the town fades behind you. Laughter, bells, the murmur of familiar voices, replaced by the rhythmic creak of saddle leather and the rustle of the road beneath hooves. You are not far from home, and yet the world already feels different. The road narrows, twisting through the last of the meadows before giving way to trees. The forest stands before you like a living wall, tall, ancient, shrouded in mist. Its leaves are the color of fading bronze, autumn settling gently into every branch. You pause for a moment, taking in the sight. It feels like the edge of something, not merely distance, but time itself. Then you urge the horse forward, and the forest swallows you whole. The light changes first. What was golden and open becomes muted, pale ribbons of sunlight filtering through branches heavy with shadow. The air grows still, thick, filled with the damp scent of moss and bark and fallen leaves. Somewhere, water drips in the distance, steady as a heartbeat. Your breath sounds louder here. So does the creak of the saddle, the quiet snort of the horse. Every noise is magnified, suspended in the hush of the woods. And yet, the forest isn't silent. There are whispers, not voices, not exactly, but the sound of leaves brushing one another, roots shifting under the soil, the occasional flutter of wings far above. It feels watchful, not cruel, but aware. You glance upward. The sky has become a tangle of gray and green, fading now toward dusk. Shafts of light pierce through gaps in the canopy, catching dust motes that dance like tiny spirits. For a fleeting second, you imagine that the forest is alive, not simply filled with life, but alive itself, vast and old and dreaming. You shiver. The path bends. Mist coils low around the roots, curling against the horse's legs like smoke. Somewhere ahead, you hear the faint call of a bird, low and echoing, strange in its tone. The horse hesitates, ears twitching. You reach forward to pat its neck, murmuring soft comfort. "It's all right," you whisper. "Just a bit farther." But the truth is, you are not certain of that at all. The road continues, narrower still, as twilight deepens. The trees seem to close in, their limbs arching overhead like the ribs of some great creature. The last of the daylight fades into gray-blue gloom. Lantern light spills faintly from your saddlebag, just enough to see the glimmer of the path. You ride on until the forest begins to change. It happens subtly, first in the texture of the air, which grows warmer, scented faintly with something floral, almost perfumed. Then the mist thins, revealing glimpses of shapes that seem too symmetrical to be natural. A curve of stone beneath moss, the remains of a carved wall, a cracked pillar leaning sideways beneath ivy, ruins, or perhaps not ruins at all. You follow the remnants of the path as it turns once more, and there, through the thinning veil of fog, you see it, the castle. It rises from the forest like something conjured from a dream, immense, solemn, impossibly still. Its towers are wrapped in creeping vines. Its walls glint faintly under the last wash of daylight. The gate stands tall and heavy, wrought iron shape like curling thorns. Beyond it, faint lights glow in the high windows. Candlelight, steady and alive, though no smoke rises from the chimneys. The horse stops of its own accord. You stare. The sight steals your breath. There is beauty here, yes, but it's the kind of beauty that carries unease. Like a face too perfect to be real. A wind stirs suddenly, though none had blown before. It sweeps across the courtyard, stirring leaves and dust, setting the lanterns to flickering. The gates groan softly, and then, without touch, without force, they open. A slow, hollow sound, metal against stone. You feel your heart quicken. The road leads you forward, though part of you wishes to turn back. Still, curiosity tugs stronger than fear. You cross beneath the archway, the sound of hooves echoing on cobblestones slick with moss. The air here smells faintly of roses and rain. You dismount, leading the horse to a sheltered corner where vines trail down like curtains. The great doors of the castle stand before you, tall, carved with strange symbols. You hesitate only a moment before lifting your hand to knock. But before your knuckles meet the wood, the door opens. Slowly, silently. Inside, candlelight spills across the floor, pooling at your feet. No one stands there. The hall beyond is vast and empty, filled with shadows and glimmers of gold. You step inside cautiously. The air is warm, not musty, as you'd expect from an abandoned place, but alive with the faint hum of something unseen. The doors close behind you with a gentle thud. You freeze, your pulse quickening, but then the candles nearest you flicker, as though in greeting. The walls are lined with portraits, faces that seem to follow you as you walk. Tables are set, though no feast is served. Chandeliers hang like webs of crystal, their light reflecting endlessly upon polished marble floors. You call out softly, "Hello?" Your voice echoes, caught by the stone, then fades. From somewhere distant, there's the faintest sound, not footsteps, but movement, the rustle of heavy cloth, the creak of an unseen door. Then silence again. You take another step, and then another, each one slow, careful. The castle feels awake. You can sense it in the air. Every flickering flame, every shadow that shifts when you're not looking directly at it. It isn't threatening, not yet, but neither is it welcoming. It's like walking inside a memory, something that once lived and still remembers how to breathe. At the far end of the hall stands a staircase, broad and spiraling upward into shadow. You think you see light at the top, faint, golden, moving. Perhaps someone is there. But before you can climb, you pause, turning toward the window. The world outside has changed completely. The forest lies shrouded in mist, silver beneath the moonlight. You could almost believe you'd crossed into another realm entirely. You whisper to yourself, half to calm your nerves, half to remind yourself you're real. It's only a house, only a place, but the words feel hollow, even as you speak them. A draft passes through the hall. The candles waver, not out, but bending toward the stairs, as though drawn to something unseen. And for the briefest moment, you catch a sound, low, deep, almost like a sigh. It seems to come from the very walls themselves. The castle is breathing. For a long while, you simply stand there in the great hall, listening. The silence is so deep it feels alive. It hums faintly against your skin, carrying the weight of unspoken things. The candles tremble on their sconces, casting long, restless shadows along the walls. You whisper again, a little louder this time. "Hello, is someone there?" And then you hear it. A faint clinking sound, followed by the rustle of movement. Your heart leaps, but what steps into view is not a man, nor even an animal. It is a candelabrum, tall and gilded, walking delicately on curved legs. Its flames flicker brighter as it bows. You gasp, taking a step back, your hand pressed against your chest. "Ah, mademoiselle, forgive the fright," it says, in a lilting voice that seems impossibly cheerful for such a strange sight. "We've waited ever so long for someone to come through that door." Before you can even speak, another voice joins in, softer, primer, belonging to a porcelain teapot perched on a rolling cart. "Mind your manners, Lumiere. You'll startle the poor girl to fainting." You blink once, twice, then a teacup hops in front of you and waves. You are not dreaming. Or perhaps you are, and if so, you would rather not wake. They bustle around you with delightful energy, the castle suddenly alive with laughter and motion. The once empty tables shimmer faintly with golden light. Paintings seem to sigh. Curtains flutter as though greeting you. Every enchanted object glows faintly, as if awakening from a long slumber. You feel their warmth, their hope, but beneath it all, there's something else. A presence, a weight in the air, a heartbeat you can almost feel. The flickering candles dim for a moment, and all sound seems to fade, except for the slow, heavy thud of something large moving in the shadows above. The enchanted objects freeze mid-motion. The teapot gasps. "Oh dear," she murmurs. "He's coming." A deep voice echoes from the stairwell. Not loud, but resonant, vibrating through the stone. "Who is here?" Your breath catches. The sound rolls through the hall like thunder, yet within it, there is sorrow. The candles tilt toward the staircase, as if compelled. You find yourself gazing upward, toward the darkness between the railings. Slowly, a shape emerges, massive, broad, cloaked in shadow, a sound of claws against marble. And then, he steps into the light. The beast. You have never seen such a creature. He stands taller than any man, shoulders wrapped in a dark, tattered cloak that trails behind him. His face is half hidden by the fall of fur and the dim glow of the chandeliers, features caught between human and something other. His eyes are unmistakably alive, deep, amber, gleaming with something that looks painfully like regret. You cannot move. The enchanted objects have vanished into silence, leaving you alone beneath the gaze of the creature. He descends slowly, the echo of his steps measured and deliberate. "What are you doing here?" he asks, his voice softer now, but still edged like a blade dulled by sorrow. No one is to enter this castle. You open your mouth, but no sound comes at first. Then, quietly, I didn't mean to trespass. My horse lost the path. I was only looking for shelter. His eyes narrow slightly, and for a heartbeat, you think you see anger, but it fades, replaced by something almost weary. He looks at you as if he's seeing someone from another life. Your face, he murmurs, almost to himself. There's something of her in you? You frown. Her? He doesn't answer. Instead, he turns slightly, his claws brushing the edge of a nearby table. You notice how careful he is, every movement restrained, as though he fears his own strength. Leave by morning, he says at last. You should not have come here. The words sting, but even as he says them, there's a hesitation in his tone. You sense that he doesn't truly want you gone. Or perhaps he only wishes he did. You step closer, heart pounding. Wait, my father. He once told me about this place. The beast looks up sharply. Your voice trembles, though not from fear, from memory. He said it was cursed, that no one of our family must ever come near. It was my grandmother who told him that. She made him promise, a promise he passed to me, but he never said why. A shadow crosses the beast's face. His breath catches faintly, and for a moment, the great hall seems to still completely. He turns away. Your grandmother was wise. There's a pause, deep, heavy with things unsaid. You take another step forward, then you knew her. He doesn't reply. His back remains to you, the faint rise and fall of his shoulders betraying a quiet battle within. When he finally speaks, his voice is lower, more fragile. I knew the reason she warned you. That is enough. You can feel the truth pressing just beneath his words. Something dark, ancient, and personal. Before you can ask more, the enchanted candelabrum lumiere slips between you, forcing brightness into the heavy air. Well, now that introductions are out of the way, he declares cheerfully, perhaps our guest would like something warm to eat before retiring? The beast turns toward him sharply, but Lumiere only flicks a flame and smiles. After all, a little kindness never cursed anyone. A sound escapes the beast, not quite a growl, not quite a sigh. He gives the smallest of nods and retreats toward the shadows. Do as you will. Then he's gone. The echo of his steps fades down the corridor, leaving behind an ache you can't quite explain. The enchanted objects gather around you again, filling the silence with gentle laughter and hurried excitement. The teapot insists you sit. The clock scolds the candelabrum for talking too much. The teacup bounces happily as it pours itself full. And though their chatter warms you, part of your attention remains fixed on the direction the beast vanished. The long, dark hallway that swallows his shape and his sorrow whole. You sip the tea absently, feeling the faint tremor of the castle under your palm. It feels as though everything here, walls, floors, even the air, holds its breath, waiting for something. Later, as you are shown to a small room lit by moonlight through stained glass, you find yourself thinking of his eyes. Not the sharpness, nor the claws, nor the monstrous strength, but the sorrow beneath all of it. And as you lie in bed, you recall your grandmother's warning, her trembling voice when she told you never to come near the forest road. You had thought it only superstition, a ghost story for children. Now you know it was something else, something real. You couldn't sleep. The bed was soft, the sheets warmer than anything you've ever known, and yet something pressed gently against your heart, a whisper without words, calling from far beyond the room's velvet curtains. The castle was quiet now. Only the faint tick of unseen clocks and the slow breathing of the walls reminded you that this place was never truly still. You turned over once, twice, and sighed. Then, in the corner of the chamber, you noticed the faintest shimmer of gold, the glow of an enchanted lamp resting upon the mantel, as though waiting for you to notice it. When you reached for it, it flickered awake, stretching like a sleepy firefly. Its light warmed the room, casting long, soft shadows across the floor. "Ah, you're awake too," said a small, weary voice, not quite human, not quite flame. The lamp chuckled faintly. "Couldn't sleep either, could you?" You smiled despite yourself. "No, something's calling me." The lamp brightened just enough to wink, then follow it. And so, barefoot, you lifted the glowing lamp and stepped out into the corridor. The doors opened soundlessly before you, as if anticipating your touch. The air grew colder as you walked. The torches along the walls bowed low, their flames dimming in greeting, as though acknowledging your passage. You descended a narrow staircase you hadn't noticed before, spiraling, carved into old stone. The lamp hummed quietly, leading the way, its little flame trembling with excitement. At the bottom, the air changed. You smelled something impossible for winter, roses. You stepped into a long corridor framed by ivy that gleamed like glass in the moonlight. The scent grew stronger, sweeter, older. Ahead, a door stood ajar. It groaned when you touched it, but it did not resist. And beyond that door, the world opened. It was a garden, vast and hidden beneath the castle's frozen heart. Snow lay on every branch, glinting like diamond dust, yet the roses bloomed defiantly, their petals trembling in the icy air. Red, white, and pale pink blossoms climbed over silver trellises and crystal fountains. Every breath you took seemed to carry a memory, laughter, sorrow, promises broken and kept. The garden glowed as though moonlight itself had taken root. You walked slowly, marveling at each flower. The lamp whispered softly, "This is the garden of winter roses. It was once the queen's sanctuary before the curse." You frowned. "The queen?" The lamp hesitated. "The beast's mother. Or perhaps something greater than that. No one remembers anymore." The scent drew you deeper until you reached the heart of the garden, where the snow fell in a perfect circle around a single stone pedestal. Upon it grew one solitary rose. Unlike the others, this one pulsed faintly with light, as though it breathed. Its stem was ancient, its thorns blackened with age, and at its crown, 3 fragile petals remained. Trembling as if on the verge of flight, you held your breath. The world seemed to stop. "This is the rose of ages," the lamp murmured, dimming its light. "The last heart of the curse. It has been blooming since before you were born. Something inside you ached. You didn't understand why, but you felt its sorrow, its endurance. You reached out, not to pick it, not to claim it, only to feel its warmth, its pulse. And the moment your fingers brushed the air around it, the rose shivered. One petal drifted free, then another. They floated down like tears and landed softly in your open palm. You gasped. The light of the lamp flickered wildly. The ground seemed to sigh. Somewhere in the garden, a low growl rose and faded. You turned, and there he was. The beast stood at the edge of the moonlight, silent, still. His breath steamed in the cold air. His eyes glowed faintly. Not red, not golden, but something between sorrow and wonder. You expected anger, but he only looked at you with quiet resignation. "It seems," he said softly, his voice echoing like wind through caverns, "the rose has chosen you." You looked down at the petals in your hand, faintly glowing, fragile, alive. "I didn't mean to," you began. He shook his head slowly. "It was not your doing. It was always meant to be." You stepped closer, the snow crunching beneath your feet. "This rose, it's connected to you, isn't it?" He hesitated. The lamp's flame dimmed, listening. Finally, the beast said, "To me, and to those who once loved me. Every petal is a heartbeat lost, a promise broken. When the last petal falls, so too shall I." Silence hung between you, heavy, trembling, infinite. You wanted to ask why you felt this strange pull toward the rose, why your grandmother's warnings echoed in your ears, why your father feared this place. But in that moment, all you could see was the loneliness in the beast's eyes. He stepped into the moonlight. Snow caught on his fur, glittering like stars. "Sleep, Belle," he said gently. "Before the last petal falls." You stared at him. This creature the world would call a monster, and for the first time, you felt not fear, but pity. Something inside you whispered, "You've been here before." You closed your hand around the fallen petals, feeling their warmth pulse faintly in your palm. The lamp trembled, then dimmed entirely, leaving only the moon and the quiet heartbeat of the garden. And somewhere in the cold distance, the enchanted rose sighed, as if remembering a promise from long ago. The morning after the garden was wrapped in stillness. The snow outside the windows had thickened during the night, softening the world into silence. You awoke to the faint scent of butter and roasted chestnuts, and for a long moment you thought you were home again, until you saw the vaulted ceiling, the silken curtains, and the faint shimmer of frost upon the inside of the glass. The lamp from the night before rested quietly beside your bed, cold now, its little flame asleep. You rose and dressed, guided by the rustle of unseen hands straightening your shawl, tying your hair with a ribbon that wasn't yours, but felt like it belonged. "Breakfast is ready, mademoiselle," whispered a voice from nowhere. You followed the voice down the corridor, past portraits whose eyes had grown tired of watching centuries pass. At the end of the hall, Two enormous doors opened into the dining room, vast, shadowed, and strangely lonely despite its grandeur. Candles floated in the air like tiny spirits, their light glinting off silver plates and crystal goblets. And there he was. The beast sat at the far end of the long table, his form half shrouded in darkness. A faint trail of steam rose from his cup, though he did not drink. The air trembled faintly with his presence, not in menace, but in weight, in gravity. You hesitated at the threshold. The enchanted teapot, plump, smiling, almost maternal, gave you a little nudge from behind. Go on, dear. He's expecting you. You took your seat halfway down the table. The utensils moved on their own. A knife spreading butter, a spoon stirring your tea, a gentle voice asking if you'd like honey. It was absurd and comforting all at once. The beast ate in silence. The faint clinking of porcelain filled the hall. Every so often, you caught him glancing toward you, though he said nothing. When he finally rose, the chair groaned softly under his weight. He paused, looking toward the windows where the morning light strained to reach him, and said in a low, restrained voice, "Once you're done with your breakfast, leave." You looked up. Leave? He did not meet your eyes. You are free to go. And with that, he turned and vanished into the corridor, his footsteps echoing like the fading beat of a heart. It didn't take long for the castle to help you gather your things. Coats appeared at the ready, scarves floated to your hands. Boots stood by the door like old servants eager to please. You thanked them softly, uncertain if you were speaking to spirits or memories. As you stepped out into the snow, the air sharp and bright, a small figure hurried after you. A tall, spindly candelabrum hobbling on two thin legs, panting as though truly out of breath. Wait, Mademoiselle. You turned. The butler, Lumiere, as you'd learned, was waving frantically, his golden arms flickering with distress. "Please, I must speak with you," he said, his flames dimming against the cold wind. You hesitated, and he came closer, lowering his voice. "You must understand what you saw last night. The rose, it is not merely beautiful. It is him." You frowned. "What do you mean?" "The curse that binds this castle is woven around that rose. Each petal marks the passing of time, the fading of hope. When the last petal falls, the spell becomes permanent. The beast will remain as he is, and we will never be free." The words stung like frost. You looked down at your hands, remembering the faint warmth of the petals that had fallen into them, the two that drifted so gently, so innocently. You swallowed hard. "I didn't know," you whispered. Lumiere's flame flickered gently. "He knows you didn't, but the rose does not forgive easily. You wanted to ask if there was a way to stop it, to mend what had been undone, but the candelabrum's voice faltered. He let you go," he said softly. "That's more mercy than this castle has seen in years." Snow began to fall again, light as ash. The butler sighed, his flames dim. "Be safe, mademoiselle, and remember him kindly, if nothing else." You nodded, your throat tight, and turned toward the white expanse that led home. The road was long, and the day passed in silence. When you finally reached your cottage at the edge of the village, everything was just as you had left it. The books, the scent of herbs drying near the hearth, your father's tools resting neatly in their place. But it all felt distant now, as if seen through glass. That night, you couldn't sleep. You lay awake, listening to the winter wind press against the shutters. The memory of the beast lingered like a shadow on your heart. His silence, his sorrow, the way he had said leave, not with anger, but with resignation. You thought of the rose, the last 3 petals, no one now, and the way it had trembled as though afraid to die. And you thought of his eyes in the moonlight, not monstrous, but tired. He had known all of it. He had known what the loss of those petals meant, and still, he let you go. Something in that thought refused to let you rest. Before dawn, you rose quietly. The world outside was pale and still. You lit the hearth and kneaded fresh dough, your hands moving by habit more than thought. The smell of baking bread filled the air, warm and human. You poured milk into a small bottle, tied it with twine, and wrapped both in a cloth. When the first light of morning touched the hills, you placed the bundle in a basket. You stood at the threshold, hesitating only a moment. You did not know what you could do, what words or actions could possibly change the fate of a cursed soul and a dying rose. But your heart told you that turning away was the greater wrong. So you pulled your shawl close, breathed in the cold morning air, and began the journey back to the castle. Each step echoed softly in the snow, and though you did not see it, far beyond the mountains, in the heart of the frozen garden, the last petal trembled, waiting. When you return to the castle, dawn has barely broken. The sky is pale gray, painted with the faint blush of morning frost. The forest seems to hold its breath as you approach the familiar gate, that enormous wrought iron archway now glistening with dew. You half expect the doors to resist you this time, to refuse entry as punishment for your curiosity and guilt. But as your fingers brush the cold metal, the hinges creak open on their own, as if the castle itself has been waiting. The courtyard is quiet. Snow dusts the hedges and the tops of the gargoyles. Even the fountains seem to whisper in softer tones, their frozen streams glowing faintly under the weak sunlight. You clutch your basket, the bread still warm, the milk chilled from the morning air, and step across the threshold. Inside, the castle is dim, but not unfriendly. Shadows gather in the corners like sleepy spirits. The air carries a faint scent of lavender and candle wax. As you walk deeper, you hear tiny voices fluttering around you, familiar ones now. Miss Belle's come back, squeaks a teacup from a shelf, nearly toppling in excitement. Mind the porcelain, Chip, scolds another voice, a teapot, warm and motherly. Somewhere behind them, the old clock chimes, slow, uncertain, like a heartbeat rediscovering its rhythm. You smile faintly, unable to help it. The enchanted things, once eerie to you, now seem like fragments of something deeply human. Hope. They bustle and chatter, their excitement spilling through the halls like sunlight through stained glass. Is he here? You ask softly, though you're not sure why. The butler, a candelabrum with dignified posture, steps forward, his flames flickering low. The master is in the west wing, mademoiselle. He hasn't been the same since you left. You pause, feeling something unspoken between the words. Then you nod and say, I won't disturb him. I just wanted to bring him something. The butler bows, his candlelight bending low. Perhaps in time, you might find he does not wish to be undisturbed. You spend the morning exploring. The castle seems less menacing now, though still impossibly vast. Corridors that lead to staircases that lead to hallways that lead back to where you began. Yet this time, the silence feels companionable. You touch the cold marble banisters, trace the tapestry threads that tell stories of long-forgotten hunts, queens, and kings. In one hallway, you find an enchanted mirror resting on a pedestal of carved stone. The mirror's frame is gilded with roses, a motif that now haunts you. When you peer into it, you do not see your reflection. Instead, the surface ripples, and for a moment, you glimpse the castle as it once was, filled with laughter, music, and human faces unbound by enchantment. Then it fades, leaving only your eyes, wide, uncertain, shimmering with something fragile. At midday, you find the library, an endless chamber lined with shelves that stretch higher than you can see. Dust motes dance in the air like drifting stars. You whisper titles under your breath, your fingers brushing old spines. Histories of forgotten kingdoms, the astronomy of love and sorrow, poetry for those who wait too long. You choose one at random and sit by the tall window. The snow outside is falling thickly now, turning the gardens white. You read until your voice feels like part of the stillness itself. And then, as you lower the book, you realize you're not alone. The beast stands by the doorway, silent, massive, but not menacing. His fur glows faintly amber in the candlelight. His claws are sheathed. He says nothing, merely watches. You can feel his presence like gravity, heavy, steady, inescapable. I brought you bread, you whisper, and milk. I didn't know if. His voice, when it comes, is rough but soft at the edges. You shouldn't have come back. I know. He steps forward, the wood creaking under his weight. You knew what I am, what I've done. You nod. I also know you let me go. Something in him flinches. For a long moment, there is nothing but the hush of the snow outside and the ticking of the enchanted clock. Then, almost imperceptibly, he says, the castle feels different when you're here. You lower your gaze. I think it feels alive. The days pass in a rhythm that feels both ancient and new. You take walks through the echoing hallways, learning their secret turns and hidden rooms. The enchanted servants tell you stories of the old days, of feasts, dances, and the young prince who once ruled with pride but never learned kindness until it was too late. Sometimes you see him in the evenings, standing at the window, staring into the snow as if waiting for the world to forgive him. You never interrupt, but once, as you pass, he speaks without turning. Does your village speak of me? You hesitate. only in whispers. And what do they say? They say the castle is cursed, that a beast lives here. And what do you say? You meet his eyes, those strange golden eyes that seem both human and otherworldly. I say they haven't met you. One evening, he invites you awkwardly, almost apologetically, to dinner. The table is set with silverware polished, so brightly it reflects the chandelier's light like starlight. You sit across from him, and the silence between you feels like a fragile bridge suspended over time. He eats slowly, deliberately, as if forcing himself to recall the gestures of humanity. Occasionally, he glances up, and when your eyes meet, there's something like confusion there, perhaps even longing. Do you miss it? You ask quietly, being who you were. He nods once. Every day. But I remember less and less of you. The more I try, the more the memories slip away. I am becoming what I appear to be. You reach for your cup, unsure what to say. Then softly, that's not true. He looks at you sharply. You still care, you say. That's human enough. The next morning, you find yourself humming as you walk through the halls. The castle hums back, faintly, almost imperceptibly, as though in tune with your steps. The mirrors shimmer with warmth. The candles burn brighter. The beast's footsteps, when they echo down the marble, no longer sound like thunder, but like the heartbeat of something waking up. There's still sadness, yes, still secrets, still shadows. But in the hush between them, there's something else growing. Something softer, fragile as a falling petal. Not love yet, not redemption, just understanding. And for the first time, that feels like enough. It begins again with a dream, the same one that has haunted you since the first night in the castle. Darkness spreading like ink, and in the middle of that endless void, a single beam of pale light falling upon a rose. The same rose, red as living blood, trembling in the stillness of an invisible wind. But tonight, it looks weaker. Its glow flickers like a candle about to die. You take a step toward it, and your footsteps echo across the emptiness, each one louder than the last. You can feel your heart pounding. No, not pounding, breaking. The rose is wilting before your eyes. Its stem droops. Its petals curl inward, exhausted, as if the weight of time has finally caught up with it. You reach for it, desperate, the way you did before. But this time, there is no clawed hand to stop you. Only the voice. Let it go. It is the beast's voice, but softer, fainter, almost human. You look around, but there is no one in the darkness except you and the fading rose. And then, for the first time, you notice something else. The rose isn't on a pedestal. It's growing out of something familiar. Soil, stones, grass. You're not in the void anymore. You're in the garden, the one with frost on the petals and moonlight caught in the ice. But now, everything is colorless. The roses are gray, the fountain is dry, and above you, the sky is a deep shade of ash. You kneel by the dying rose and whisper, "Please, don't fade, not yet." The rose flickers faintly, but before you can touch it, You feel the earth tremble beneath your knees. The shadow of a figure falls across you. Tall, heavy, familiar. You turn, and he is there. The beast. His eyes look almost hollow, yet kind. He gazes down at you, sorrow etched into every line of his face. "It was never the rose that was cursed," he says quietly. "It was me." And when he reaches out, it's not to take your hand, but to place something in it, the final petal. You wake with a gasp. Your chest rises and falls rapidly, and for a moment, you don't know where you are. The fire in the hearth has gone out. The first light of dawn has not yet arrived. The dream clings to you like mist. Its sadness, its urgency, its truth. And then it hits you. The rose. You throw off the covers and run, your feet cold against the stone floor. The castle is silent, as though holding its breath. Your steps echo through the corridors, past the hall of mirrors, past the grand staircase where shadows dance, past the sleeping candles whose flames flicker awake as you pass. "Please," you whisper to no one. "Please, not yet." When you burst into the garden, the air is heavy and cold. Mist curls around the statues. The fountain has frozen over. And there, standing in the center of it all, is the beast, his massive form, bowed as if in mourning. In his clawed hand, something glimmers faintly. The final petal, glowing weakly like an ember about to fade. "Why did you take it?" You cry, breathless. "Why did you do that?" He turns to you, and his golden eyes are softer than you've ever seen them. "Because I now accept my fate." "No," you whisper, stepping closer. "That's not how this ends." But he doesn't stop you when you take the petal from his hand. It feels weightless, fragile, almost warm. For a heartbeat, you swear it still pulses with life. You run through the hallways, through the echoing silence, to the grand dining room. The enchanted things stir in confusion as you burst in. Lumiere nearly drops his own flame. "Boil water," you command, voice trembling. "Quickly, in the teapot." "Boil water?" Lumiere stammers, already sparking to life. "For tea?" "Yes, rose tea." The teacup squeaks. "But we don't have any." You raise your hand, the last petal gleaming between your fingers. "We do now." Lumiere and the cook obey without question. Steam fills the air, fragrant and sweet. When the water begins to bubble, you drop the petal into the pot. For a moment, it floats, unburned, glowing faintly red, and then it dissolves, tinting the water pink. You pour it into a cup and carry it to the window, where dawn is beginning to touch the edges of the horizon. Behind you, footsteps, heavy, slow, familiar. He enters the room. "What are you doing?" His voice is calm, almost resigned. You turn to face him, holding the cup. "Drink this." He looks at you, puzzled. "Why?" You shake your head. "I don't know, I think I have to." For a moment, he hesitates. Then, wordlessly, he takes the cup from your hands. His claws curl carefully around the porcelain, as if afraid to break it. He walks to the tall window, gazing out at the gray world. The horizon is beginning to pale. A single ray of sunlight cuts through the mist, landing across his face. He raises the cup, takes a slow sip, and closes his eyes. "I don't feel any different," he says softly. "You're not supposed to," you reply. He looks at you, really looks, and smiles faintly. "Then I suppose this is peace." The first light of dawn spills through the tall windows like molten gold, softening every edge of shadow. The beast stands by the window, the empty teacup still warm between his hands. Outside, frost gives way to dew. The garden below glimmers with color and breath. He blinks once. The roses, all of them, are blooming again, their petals unfolding as though time itself has begun to move once more. Then he sees movement, faint human-like figures among the flowers, bending, watering, tending the soil. A shiver runs through him. He leans closer to the glass, the cup trembling in his hand. The figures are clearer now, not shadows, but people alive and real. Slowly, he turns. There, near the doorway, stand Lumiere and the cook. No longer brass and porcelain, but human. The warmth of life glows faintly in their faces. They smile at him, silent but radiant, their eyes bright with something that feels like joy, or perhaps release. The beast's breath catches. His hand rises to his chest. The fur beneath his fingers feels different, softer, thinner. His claws tremble, reshaping, dissolving. He stares down in disbelief. And still, there are no words. He looks toward you. You stand across the hall, your face pale in the gold light, your eyes meeting his. For a long, fragile heartbeat, the world holds still. In that silence, both of you understand. The curse is gone, not broken by a spell, but by something far quieter, compassion, perhaps, or simply the choice to care. The morning light widens, washing the walls in brightness. The air hums, alive again. He steps toward you, the last remnants of his old form fading with every breath. And when your eyes meet, no words are needed. The truth is already there, clear as dawn. Outside, a single rose petal lifts into the air, rising rather than falling, as if the world itself has begun to dream again.